A former student was stabbed at Methuen High School. Police say it happened when he confronted a current student. Here's the chief of police.
A Methuen police officer assigned to the high school radioed in and reported a student bleeding and requested an ambulance. That school resource officer later updated us and reported that there was actually a stabbing at the school and that there was a suspect in connection with that stabbing in custody. Our preliminary investigation suggests a 15-year-old juvenile male, a former student at Methuen High School, but currently unenrolled, entered the building and confronted a 16-year-old juvenile male student who was known to him. The incident escalated to a physical confrontation, subsequently resulting in a 16-year-old student stabbing the former student. The 16-year-old suspect is believed to have chased after another student while brandishing that same knife. That student was able to escape without having been harmed. The incident ended when a male student and a male staff member physically intervened, essentially tackling the suspect and holding that suspect down until police arrival. The suspect was then immediately placed into police custody. The victim of the stabbing sustained non-life-threatening injuries and is reportedly in stable condition. The victim of the stabbing is also likely to be charged in connection with the unauthorized entry and trespass into the school building. I want to stress now that we believe there is no reason to believe there's any ongoing threat to students, staff, or the community at large. There was an enhanced police presence today at an early dismissal, and that enhanced police presence will continue throughout the coming days. I'll report on the charges that the suspect is now facing. That 16-year-old juvenile male suspect is facing 2 counts of assault and battery by means of a dangerous weapon, to wit a knife, 1 count of armed assault with intent to murder, 1 count of carrying a dangerous weapon on school grounds, and in connection with that second victim, 1 count of assault by means of a dangerous weapon, to wit knife. I'd like to recognize the quick response of Methuen High School staff, particularly the nursing staff, who was instrumental in terms of providing medical attention to that male victim. I also want to thank our school resource officers, staff members in the building, all of which worked collectively together to bring this incident to a quick and speedy resolution. In the days to follow, Superintendent Kwong and I, along with high school principal Richard Barden, we will be reviewing security procedures, door locking procedures, and building access policies. And with that, I will turn it over to you for any questions you may have for myself or the superintendent.
How did the former student even get inside the building? And we're talking about creating or building policies. Why weren't those policies in place to begin with?
Sure. Well, as it relates to how that student got in today, I will tell you that it's an active and ongoing investigation. We're certainly reviewing that, including the extensive video footage that exists in the building. At this time, we believe that the suspect was let in by another student. We're working right now to try to identify that student who let the suspect into the building.
This was coordinated with another student inside, for example?
In terms of being let into the building, absolutely. In terms of what coordination, in terms of the assault that took place later, we don't know that.
So like
was this a random? This was not random, that you can tell. So this was targeted all the way?
Sure, absolutely. It's a good point. This is absolutely not a random event. We have every reason to believe that the suspect and the victim are known to each other.
So pre-planned that someone would meet him and let him in the building? You said coordinated effort to get him in the building?
Well, the suspect had assistance getting into the building. The suspect didn't sneak by school staff, for example. It was a side door that somebody inside the building, a student, was able to open a door and let this former student into the building.
Do you know what the beef was between the two? Why he would go into his school?
We don't know that at this time.
Chief, did you recover a weapon? And if so, what was the suspect doing carrying a knife in the building?
We did recover a weapon. We do have that in custody now. It's a knife with a 4-inch blade. As to how that student was able to enter the building, that's with that knife, that's something we'll be reviewing in terms of security policies, something for the community at large to decide in terms of what their expectations are in terms of things like metal detection and that sort of protocol.
Can someone speak to what the policy is now, whether it's you or you
Sure. So after arrival in the morning, the students, everybody has to go through the main office. There's a main office door and a secretary right there to let all students and visitors in for tardy passes, or if they're there for meetings, et cetera. Everybody needs to come through the main entrance.
Superintendent, what's your reaction to the midday violence at the school?
Well, nobody wants to. We certainly don't want to be here today dealing with this kind of a situation in one of our schools. But I do feel comfort in the fact that we have worked collaboratively with the Methuen Police Department, and our staff and students acted so swiftly today to be able to, again, make sure that all of our students were safe. We did go into a shelter in place today at the school with the rest of the student population while we were doing the investigation, once we knew that the suspect was in custody. So we just had to make a decision, very quick decisions to make sure that we could get the rest of the students home safely and make sure that we could cooperate with the police in finishing our internal and the police investigation as well.
So should parents feel safe sending their kids to Methuen High?
Yeah, so I do feel that we're in a situation, again, as Chief McNamara stated, this was an isolated situation that the two students involved knew each other. That I do feel that there is, it is safe to return and get our kids back to the routines. And again, we'll have a heightened presence of police in the building. We will have a heightened presence of staff in hallways and in the building at all times, over the coming weeks as we close the school year.
Is there any way that the staff could be notified if someone comes in with a side door like that in the future?
So I'm not quite sure I'm understanding your question, but, we don't have alarms on our doors, if that's what you're asking. Side doors, there's probably 15 to 20 doors that surround the perimeter of our high school. So they are locked during the school day, and students are not supposed to go in and out of those doors. So that's the best I can answer that, I think, at this point.
When did the former students stop going to Methuen High School?
It was very recent. I don't have the exact date, but within weeks.
Chief, would this be a reason to put metal detectors in the school, or is it an isolated incident you don't believe?
Well, I have every reason to believe it's an isolated incident. I think that frankly, it comes down to community values. I think that this community has spoken on that in the past and decided that that's not a protocol that they'd want at their high school. I'm not sure exactly how effective that is. I mean, students who want to get weapons into a school can often find a way to do it beyond, as what happened today. If we were to have a metal detector at the front door, you certainly couldn't have them at every door. And that was basically secreted into the school and brought into our school environment. So again, that's something for this community at large to determine.
So there were parents who were saying, I hope that something's being done to make sure this doesn't happen again. Are there things you're thinking about that would prevent this from happening in the future?
Well, as I said, we're going to meet, myself, the superintendent, the high school principal, Richard Barton. We're going to go over those policies and see if there's a way to do it better. I will say there's been quite a dedication of resources here in the city of Methuen as a whole. We have a Methuen police officer, a school resource officer assigned to each of our 5 schools, and that's unusual to have a police officer in every school in the city. So we're proud of that, and we're doing the best we can to keep our schools safe.